welcome everybody. This is our Rodcast, a new little project that we've put together with 3FT. I'm going to be asking questions to somebody maybe once a month, just about their fishing or a particular campaign they've had. And we're going to be starting off, of course, with Richard Easom, who is the founder of 3FT. And I'm going to be just asking him a few questions about his fishing and the company as well, because I think it's always good for people to hear it from the horse's mouth, as it is. So we don't know how it's going to go. This is the first time we've done this, so it's all new to both of us. But we're going to basically we're going to wing it this time. Yeah. So anyway, without further ado, Richard Easom, and we'll crack on with some questions.
Excellent.
Okay. So anyway, the first question is, has got to be, if we're starting from the beginning, what got you into fishing in the first place?
Well, I think it was really my brother. We used to go down with my dad a lot. He used to fish, catch a lot of silvers, etc., on a local pond. And I was about 5 years old, and I got into just watching what he did, and then eventually I got into getting my first rod at 5 years old, and then going down to a local lake. And my first fish was actually a small tench, and I've never actually repeated that since. It was the smallest tench ever, and that was my first taste of angling, really, so it were. So I got into that, and that was really good for a time. And then we went later on to Trent, where I started learning like the feeder craft. And I got upset one day. It was a really silly situation that happened. But I remember that I had this really small spinning rod. It must have only been about 5 foot. And I ended up trying to cast a feeder, which must have been about 6 or 7 ounces, into the middle of the river. And I snapped off first cast, and I got so upset, I started crying, and I just went back to the car and I just left. I got my dad. I said to my dad, "Take me home, take me home." And I was there like, well, I'm going to have to replace all those load of feeders, and I got this into my head that I had to get loads and loads of feeders afterwards. So we went to a local tackle shop after that. It was called Ken's Fishing Tackle. It used to be on the bottom of my road, so to speak. And that used to be quite a every Sunday or every Saturday we used to go down there, and I ended up buying like 8 or 10 feeders, and things never got any better after that, mind you. I used to snap off quite often. But yeah, that's really what got me into fishing.
Brilliant. Yeah, well, it's always nice to hear, especially from a young age. I think a lot of anglers get into fishing from a really young age, don't they? Especially if it's a family member or something getting into it.
Exactly. It's one of those. It's either your dad or your brother or somebody else, or a friend even, and you end up getting into it that way. It's really, like I say, it's one of those things. You either take it up, or you just find it boring.
Yeah,
that's what my friends do, to be honest.
Yeah. They're always really fond memories, those first sort of fishing experience. I think they're never things that you forget. They stay with you forever.
Oh, they do, yeah. And I could always, like I say, I always remember the first time I actually went fishing and caught that small tench. Never repeated that capture, never caught a tench that small. Must have only been about 1 ounce. I've never actually repeated that. And it's like I say, my dad was never ever into fishing. My brother still into fishing, but he's into more match type fishing, small carp fishing on a club water. But yeah, we rarely go nowadays. But I used to make a point of going every weekend with my brother, and it used to be one of those times where those experiences, like you say, Joe, you don't forget. Right?
You treasure them forever, don't you?
Yeah, exactly.
All right then. Well, we'll move on to the next question, which is what made you decide on going into the making of bait, I guess, and what first got you interested in it? Was it, watching how the fish were feeding, or you had a tank or something like that you watched them, how they reacted?
Yeah, I think it was really, it was from an early age, really. I mean, I was about 7 or 8 years old, and I used to find it fascinating to watch fish. My mum and dad actually had a sighted caravan at Cottersea, near Taperham in Norfolk, and it was quite interesting because the Wensum ran at the back of the sighted van, and I used to go and watch them and just watch how they feed and take a particular interest in what they did. I wasn't really. I mean, I took a quite a big break from fishing. I got to a point where I was getting a little bit bored. I mean, okay, at 7 or 8 years old, it wasn't that long after I got into it, but still at that age, I was more fascinated to watch. And I was very enthusiastic, really, at a young age. And I wanted to understand how fish did what they did. And then, obviously, from that, I got into learning how different things react in the water to fish, to appeal to fish. And I started with a mesh bag, which was full of old fish, so it was rotten.
Yeah.
And we used to get this fish quite readily in Norfolk at the time. We used to know this guy was a trawler. He used to work on a trawler boat, and he used to get his fish constantly. My mum and dad used to always have fish. But on this particular occasion, I got some fish. I left it to sort of like rot, and I went to the Wentham, put the fish into like a mesh bag. It's like an onion bag. So I did all that.
Bit like chumming, really.
Yeah. So I smashed it all up, and I threw it into the river with a piece of rope attached, and it was interesting to see the fish react. I'd have a lot of pike and eels, obviously, but I would also have barbel and things like that. And from that, I derived the dubby from that notion. So it was very interesting for me in particular to understand how fish, how fish fed. And I think at that point, it sort of told me a lot about a bag just placed into the river that wasn't really doing much other than leaking oils, that attracted so many fish. So I wanted to know more. I wanted to catch more, and I was very competitive with my brother. We used to have like a trophy. So basically, we used to fish for a trophy. So it wasn't much. It was only like a little rusty old trophy, but we used to find it really, I don't know, really, really competitive to win this trophy. And we would have this match once every month to decide who was going to win this little trophy, which was, it was quite an experience at that age. We were doing a lot of things together, and competing for a little trophy just meant more to me at that stage. So yeah, I did want to learn more. I was really enthusiastic about learning about fish, and I think that's what started me, on the interest of making bait in particular, and understanding it.
Yeah. Well, I guess that leads us on to our next question. Is you obviously got into bait making. You started at 3FT, and you got into bait making, and with the development of the dubby was the first boiler that you just said that got you onto that. And I think you came under quite heavy criticism quite early on in the bait making process. And I think that would have put a lot of people off kind of pursuing essentially a career in bait making, because I know I came at probably a season or so after you'd started the FT. So I was kind of, I saw a lot of that happening, and a lot of the criticism that was coming from all over the place, but and for no real kind of founded reasons whatsoever, other than people wanting you to fail or jealousy. I don't know what it is, but you just kept going, and you've never ever give up on it. And I was just wondering how you managed to do that, because I think a lot of.
I think there's time away, really, Jay. I mean, I moved to Scotland, and things at that point. I moved away from my fishing, but not really realising how much I would actually miss fishing. And I think that's what got me into start making a bait. The W idea, it derived from what I was saying regarding the mesh bag, and really I never had any inclination to actually put that into a boilie at all until someone on the forum, said to maybe that would be an idea to put it into a boilie. So that's how it came about. I then got in contact with Anthony Wood, who was who's still going actually. He does his own made boilie pages, page on Facebook, and he put me a sort of like ingredients together and said just do that. So that's what I started to do. I put a bit of black pepper in, a bit of blood powder in, and things went on from there. And I think that really, the time away in Scotland really did make me miss being part of fishing. I did notice that I was on Facebook a lot, and not really interacting with anglers at all. So I just wanted close to the sport, and I think making bait really was sort of like secondary to actually going myself, which I couldn't do really at that point because going backwards and forwards from Scotland isn't an easy task, especially just to go fishing. And I found myself coming back once or twice a year to do some fishing, which really wasn't good enough for me. So yeah, I think that's what got me into it. The cynicism, obviously, that's going to happen. I mean, people are very cynical about things that people do. I mean, you get it with footballers, you get it with any type of professional sport. People will always be cynical and critical of what you do. And I think I didn't help myself at that point. There was a lot of times when I put myself in the firing line instead of maybe trying to understand what I'm trying to say. And yes, I did fly off the handle once or twice, but it's only, I think you've got to have skin like a rhino to be in this sport. Yeah. Especially making bait. You've got to be thick-skinned. You've got to be able to take the criticism and take it well. There's no easy way of dealing with it other than to get on with things and try and do your best. And I wasn't prepared to give up. I was bullied at school for my height, and I wasn't going to let it be a reason for me to stop. If I was going to stop doing the bait, it was going to be for my own reasons and not because someone told me to, and not because I was being bullied into it. And I think it was really, a determination of following the dream, and really just saying no. I am good enough. I am good enough to do this, and I'm going to pursue it. I'm still learning. I'm still learning now. You never stop learning with bait. And I think at that age, and well, I was a lot younger then, or a little bit younger. I wasn't prepared to let the bullies win, and for me, that's what it was. It was bullying, and I always had this thing as well where I couldn't do a 9 to 5. That wasn't for me. I couldn't get up at 9 o'clock in the morning. I mean, I always had a problem with it. My mum would tell you I was useless at getting up. And I want to be flexible in my work, and I've always wanted a job where I could be flexible. And I think this job gives me that flexibility. It also, it gives me that sort of time where I can just say, right, 11 o'clock at night, if I feel like going down to make some bait, I can, because now I'm in the unit. Things are looking a lot better for me personally, and obviously for PFT in the future, and obviously next gen, which is going to be launching the next month or two. So yeah, things are great.
Good. Yeah. Well, I mean, I've seen it from near the start anyway, just how far it's come since then. Like the progression of it. I think the early days it was very juvenile and just like almost like a little hobby to start with, and it's just grown and grown and grown, and now it's a real proper thing, and especially.
Well, I think so. I mean, you talk about how it started into like an hobby, and it was really for me at that age. I wasn't prepared to sort of make it a business. It was more like just send a load of bait out in jiffy bags and see who liked the bait. Yeah. And then I started to get the idea of building a business, and really that's really where it all started for me. And like I say, you started I think a year afterward. We still got a few, I think one or two that started originally. Dave Bryce and Dale Thomas left us for 18 months, which is a good thing. James Pitt, I don't want to miss anybody out, but they're the three at that top of my head that we still got. But yeah, things have moved forward. I mean, I used to promise a lot, deliver very little, and I think that was mainly because of the position I was in. Unfortunately, I was working from a shed for a long time, but from small acorns and all that, you do build eventually. You do get to a point where you can think, well, actually, I could make this a business. I could profit from this. I could make it better, and now I've got my unit. I'm quite happy here. There isn't any outside noise, which was a problem where I was. It wasn't the right place to be doing it, but now I feel as though I can really move forward with what we're trying to do, which is great, really. So yeah, I mean that's how it all engineered to this point, I suppose.
Yeah. And it's been great to see, and everybody that's been involved, and I know a lot of the customers have been loyal through the whole time as well, and they've seen it progress as well, and that they can see that it's really moved on to something different now.
I hope so. I mean, I hope, for now, we've got a loyal customer base that will continue to keep buying our bait, and it's important to keep those loyal customers, and we will try, move heaven and earth to try and keep them and try and gain more following, which is important, really.
Yeah, exactly. That's what we want at the end of the day, isn't it? Is to keep the customers happy, and it means a lot for them to be loyal as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, I think giving something back whenever you can, having competitions, that kind of thing, definitely helps. It helps build a brand, and that's what we're trying to do. Nothing comes easy, but it takes time. As all bait makers will tell you in this game, it does take a long time to get to a point where you're quite happy and content. I'm still not content. I want to build more, but this is the first step, and we're looking better for it. So that's a good thing.
Exactly, and it's great to see. And I guess with a great bait comes great fish as well, and that obviously has driven you to. You've had a lot of big fish from the River Trent, but I know, especially on the river, your campaign for a 16-pound plus barbel was particularly poignant for you, and maybe just talk us through that sort of little how you got there, basically, how you got that.
It all started with the notion that on my local stretch, I would have a chance to catch a 16-pound barbel, and really it got to a point where I was living off a 15 for quite a while, and I really wanted to catch a 16-pound barbel. I really wanted to catch a 16-pound barbel. So with that, it took me a good 3 to 4 years. Now I could have made it easy for myself by going to the tidal stretches of the Trent and making it a little bit easier for me. But it wasn't what I wanted to do. I wanted to catch a 16-pound barbel from the Middle Trent, and as anyone will tell you, it's not as easy as some lead you to believe. Some people can get lucky, and I get that. Some people can go out for the first time and catch a 16-pound barbel. For me, though, it wasn't easy. I had a lot of 12s, 13s, 14s, up to 15s. and never really caught that 16-pound barbel. So it started really when I was going onto this local stretch, and you know, I'd go out and I'd do more or less every other evening. You know, I'd pre-bait when I'd leave, and I was guaranteed really of getting a spot that long ago, because these things don't happen anymore on that stretch. You can't go there and expect to get the spot you want, but at that point you could. 90% of the time you could get the spot you wanted. It was very quiet. So I would pre-bait. I'd go there and I'd hopefully catch one or two, and I would quite consistently. And then I'd pre-bait when I leave, and I'd return the next day or a couple of days later, and I just kept catching 13s. And then I kept getting like recaptures. I had this fish with one eye 3 times, which was crazy. I didn't actually. I caught it twice from the same spot, and then a quarter of a mile away, I caught it again. I couldn't get away from this fish with one eye, which was quite unusual, because I would only get really one capture, you know, or 2 at most, but 3 times. It was quite ridiculous, and this was in the space of 2 or 3 weeks, and it got to a point where I was just getting annoyed. And I think everybody's been in that position. I think most people, when at some point in their angling career, go to a local stretch and find that they're catching the same fish every now and then. Maybe not everybody's that vigilant. Maybe people just put the fish back thinking, oh, it's a different fish, or don't even think about it. But I was constantly looking at fish whenever I came back, and it was a thing with me. It was a bone of contention, because I would return home from fishing and I would look on the camera and see what fish I caught that night and what fish I'd caught previously. So it got to a point where I was just getting annoyed with the fact that I would see 1 or 2 that would be captured. So I decided that I wanted away. I wanted away from there, and there wasn't much opportunity to go anywhere else at that point. But I was just putting the feelers out, maybe just thinking about where I should be going. And there was one particular time, and I can't remember his name exactly, and I don't think I should say it, but he told me about a local stretch, which was a little bit, about a quarter of a mile off. Well, actually, it was about a mile away from where I was. And he told me about certain areas, and he said, look, you know, I'll take you down there. We can have a look around, and I'll show you some spots. And when I got there, I just thought, this is the place I'm going to catch a 16-pound barbel. It was obvious, you know, and it was just a wide expanse of water. The river widened out, and I could see that it was very deep. You could just tell it's slow meandering. And I thought, yeah, you know, the bigger barbel gonna like this area because it's slower. So it's spelling less energy being in that area, so to speak. So I decided I would sort of campaign that area, and I'd do a lot of pre-baiting. But like I say, I got to a certain area one particular time when I decided that's it, because there has been a load of grief where I've been fishing, and basically some lads had turned up, they were camping out, they were taking drugs, drinking, and I decided, that made my mind up then. I was going to then target this other area. So I turned up on the first night, and well, it was evening. It was around about 6 o'clock. So I turned up, not knowing where to fish, not having any Scooby-Doo about what's on the bottom or anything like that. I turned up on this one peg, and it was quite. I just at the back edge of it, I could see like there was a big crease, and the pace fastened up, and I was just like, you know, this could be an area. You know, it looked quite snaggy. It was vortexing around, and I thought, well, you know, I'm going to give this a go. So I did a lot of casting around to see if I could find any certain areas where I should be fishing over gravel, etc. I didn't really notice at all about the snags. There wasn't really. I pulled it back to a point where I found gravel and left it. And you know, I was on the phone to the guy that had took me down there initially, and I was on the phone to him, and I was talking to him, and he was saying, "Oh yeah, you don't want to be down there. It's really, really shallow. It's really shallow." And I thought, that's a bit funny, because when I felt that, when I felt that big dad, it felt like it was a good 12, 13 foot, and probably more. And I thought, no, what's he talking about? No, you don't want to be there. You don't want to be there. Well, I thought I got off the phone. I was feeling really disheartened by the phone call, and afterwards, and I don't know whether it was because he said it, it just made it coincidental. Because it was like 1:30 in the morning. This flies round, and I'm like into this barbel, and it was the first barbel for me. I think it was 11.5 pound, but that really started the zest for fishing that particular area, purely because that area was not fished at all, and I could go down. I could literally put my bait in and understanding that no one else would fish it.
There's always something quite attractive about an area that's not being fished at all, or nobody's fishing it. There's quite a draw to somewhere like that. I always find.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, that's how it all transpired. I mean, it literally when I first started fishing there, no one's fishing it at all, and it's still to this day no one hardly fishes it. But I reckon it's because you've got lily pads growing, at the side, and it doesn't look very barbly. It looks quite slow, meandering. It looks more carpy than it is barbly, but I just had this feeling where I was going to catch. As soon as I caught that first barbel, that was it. That is where I was going to stay. And the subsequent time after that, I found that it was really, really snaggy, and I couldn't believe that I didn't get snagged the first time when I fished it. And I lost like 11 leads or something on the subsequent times, and blanking. But I kept bait with it, and that's how, I think that's sort of like, that's how I eventually got the fish into the spot. So I mean, like I said, carry on.
No, yeah, I was just going to say it was. I seem to remember it was sort of. Was it autumn going into winter sort of time?
It was November. Well, I caught it at £16, £16.10, I think. And then I caught it when it was quite weird actually. I mean, when I obviously going in search of that big barbel, it was very. I didn't know it was there, but just one night, it was firework night. It was on November the 5th, and I remember I'm like, oh, here's me. There's fireworks going off, but I want to go fishing. So it was quite warm that night. I remember it was quite windy, but it was really quite warm for the time of year. And I turned up at the spot, and I would never move from this peg, this swim at all, because I knew that place is going to produce. It was snaggy as hell, But I managed to find little gaps in between the snags that I could keep the bait in, or I could keep the rig in for some length of time. Use a heavy weight so that it wasn't dragging along the bottom and wasn't getting me into snags. But on that particular occasion, I turns up about, I don't know, maybe about 4 or 5 o'clock, and nothing had happened all night. And it was the fireworks were going off. It was the noise was there was firework displays, and it was just carnage. And I thought, you know what, I'm not going to catch anything. This is a waste of time. And I remember I set up the night shelter, and I remember I was in there. I was just applying for jobs because I wanted like a part-time job to supplement what I was doing with the bay. And I was there applying for Tesco's and Asda's and all these types of jobs, shelf stacking. And then I get a couple of beeps, and I'm like, looking around, I'm thinking, somebody else is here. It's not my lot. I just forget where I was for a minute. So I'm looking around. I'm like looking around the bivvy, and I'm like, what's going on? I look at my rod, and I just saw my rod bending over, and a couple more beats, and then a big drop back. I thought, that's my rod. So I goes and strikes it, and after a bit of a battle on the initial take, it was one of those where I didn't think it was that big. You know, I got it into the edge and it fought a little bit, but not too much. Got it into the net, and I thought that's a nice double. Until I lifted the net, and when I lifted that net, I was like, that's more than a big double. You know, that's a 16. It's got to be. So what I usually do, and I usually have like the same sort of pattern whenever I catch a fish. It would be pictures first, leave it to sort of rest again, and then bring it out and weigh the fish. But on this occasion, I was weighing that fish first. So I weighed that fish, and it was 16 pound 10, and I was just absolutely gobsmacked because I'd been trying for 3 or 4 years. It never come into fruition, and that particular night, on firework night, it was crazy. And as I put that fish back, I said, "I'll see you in March." And in March, I caught that fish an hour and a quarter before the season ended, which was absolutely crazy. And that was bigger. It was at 17.8, and then I think Matt had it as well later, and then that was it. It was never seen again. I don't know what's happened to that fish. I think probably it's been ottered. It's succumbed to something, unfortunately. But at that point, absolutely, you know, crazy. That all in one season.
Yeah, it did all happen for you down there, didn't it? The new stretch that you were fishing, and a fantastic achievement to get that goal as well. Because I know that's a goal for a lot of people that are at pursuit of big barbel. It's that 16-pound barrier seems to be the one.
Everybody wants a 16, don't they? I mean, that's the reality of it. I mean, people go on about barbel and the huge sizes they're getting to nowadays, but what people really want is that first 16, and I think that's sort of set me on the way. And what people used to say to me is that once you catch a 16, that'll be it. You know, you won't bother anymore. But I did. You know, I wanted to catch a 17 and 18, and I still got aspirations really to catch an 18. But it led me on to more. I think after that season and catching that 17, I thought maybe I should start thinking about maybe carp. And I think that.
Yeah, that leads us on to you getting onto your carp fishing on the Trent. You'll rip for your carp, which was obviously another campaign, kind of your next campaign after your 16-pound barbel, kind of pushed you in the direction of trying to catch some river carp. You knew they were present, didn't you, as well in that particular.
Yeah, I think Rob, our team member, he fished the same stretch for a long time. I mean, he's had a lot of carp over the years. He's done very well on there. And it started to, I don't know, it started to prick my ears up every time I'd come down and he would ask me to come take a photo for him. There I see a 23 and a 24, and I'm like, I'm starting to get a bit of a feel for this, you know. And it eventually sort of led me on to targeting the carp specifically. Not much really changes from barbel apart from pre-baiting and pre-baiting heavy, and that's what I did. And I remember my first sort of real session for it. You've got to call it sort of like the real session, and it started in earnest on around about the 17th, 18th of June a couple of years ago. And I started that campaign by pre-baiting about 30 kilos in a week. And it went from 5 to 2 days before I was fishing to 10 kilos. And I was really just wondering how much it would actually take, you know, before it got, well, you didn't catch anything. But I started with the 30 kilos and I did really well. On my first session, I had 7 carp, lost 3. The biggest one was 28 pounds 6.
UK PB off the river.
That is my UK PB, yeah. So yeah, it was a crazy session, and that's what really got me into it. Really from seeing Rob and seeing the fish he's catching on the stretch.
Yeah, and it's as you said, it's fairly similar your approach as to barbel, but it's just something different and
and more pre-baiting, and that's all there is to it, really.
Yeah.
Maybe bigger baits and bigger rocks.
Yeah, Well, that moves us on to your fishing in France and your first trip that you did to France on the rivers over there, and that was quite a story to tell, really. How your it's kind of how your first trip started, really, wasn't it? Where basically everybody nearly died.
Yeah. There's a bit of a story, and it's very long-winded, but I will tell it. Really, I think that started really being inspired by Matt and James, James Corey, who they went on a trip, I think a year before, and that inspired me really to want a bit of that. You know, there was a lot of carp there, and it seemed like it was like for me that type of fishing. So we made plans. Me and Matt. James was supposed to come, but ended up not coming. So it was me, Matt, and Rob Baum. So we made these plans, and you know, I was buying too much, as we always do. But you know, I was there making the bait and everything else for our trip. But I was really, really excited days leading up to it, and the journey. You know, when we first got in the band, I was really excited, and the journey was long and tiresome. You know, it was really, really long journey. I mean, I'm not going to say where it was, but it was a very long journey. In France, over on the other side. So not only had we done in one day, we had done getting to Dover, and then sort of like being on the shuttle right across. We also did the France on the other side without any sleep at all. Matt was just like a Trojan all the way, like a man possessed. He was determined to get there. So we arrived very early morning. Actually, it was quite, you know, it was probably about 5-6 o'clock. And bearing in mind this was October, I think. So yeah, it was quite late on. But when we arrived, I was greeted with a big weir. You know, this weir made Colin and Weir look like nothing. You know, it was a very, very big weir, France. So we're on this river. I didn't know anything about it. We weren't really supposed to be there either, and we weren't supposed to be fishing for night fishing anyway. But you know, these things are quite. Sometimes they can be quite relaxed. You know, it just depends sometimes how much the guard is going to be protecting that area. We found that things in France, especially on rivers, are a bit less guarded than the lakes. So we thought we'd be fine. We're also on a peninsula, which was jutted out from the main river, and you would have to cross some rocks to get there with like a little stream running through it. So it would depend on the height of the river, how high that would get. But we had boats and everything else, so everything was fine in that regard. We got all the boats out, everything was fine. We got all the gear out. Matt decided to stash the van. So he goes off, stashes the van, he comes back. We've all got our gear all laden out all over the bottom because as well we have this steep incline. I mean, Matt keeps saying I'm moaning on about this, but honestly, you keep saying I'm not fit enough, but honestly, this was very, very steep for me. I was going up and down, carrying this gear, right? I mean, Rob was carrying these bed chairs. I mean, he smokes and everything, and I was just put to shame because I just needed a rest, you know.
You took 3 oars up, didn't you?
Sorry?
You took 3 oars up, didn't you? I've heard that story.
Yeah. So it was basically up and down this steep incline. It was a nightmare for me. And eventually got down to the bottom, got all the gear at the bottom. Matt came back, started blowing up these boats. So we had 2 boats. So Matt had decided that he was going to stack all the fishing gear on one boat, and on the other boat, he was having like a trailer. So basically, it was a trailing boat and the boat that they were in. So we also had gear on that first boat that they were in as well, and they were sat at the side, rowing like a kayak, you know. So basically, just sat right at the front of the boat on the actual edge of the boat, if you get what I mean.
Yeah.
So the deer rowing, and they says, "Oh," Matt says to me, "Meet us there on the peninsula. We'll be there. Just walk over." So I was like, "Oh, thankful," because I didn't want to get in that boat. I really did not with the way things were. So how fast it was. It was crazy. So I thought initially they were just going to row the boat over to this peninsula. That's what I thought they were going to do. And bearing in mind, this is like 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock in the morning. It's only just getting light, so it's still quite dull. I goes over to the island, and I'm there, and I'm looking around, for them, and I can't see them. So I turns further to my left, and I see him in the wheel. It was literally, the boat was in the wheel, and it was right on the sill. It was crazy. They were there tackling, trying to get out of this wheel, and it was really, really dangerous. And I was like shouting over, get into the flow. They can't hear me. And they're there like Duracell bunnies, you know, they're proper giving it some with this, with this. Honestly, it's crazy. They were there giving it some. They couldn't get out of it. So what what Matt decides to do is to get over a little bit, right? So he gets over a little bit on the front of the boat to try and get a better purchase on the water. And subsequently, he nearly knocks Rob off the boat. Rob just manages to cling onto the boat and literally nearly fell into the river in 18 foot of water with a raging torrent. It was absolutely crazy. And honestly, it wasn't professionally done at all. It looked awful. And I thought, what the hell have I got who the hell have I gone with? You know, on this epic journey. And we'd been here 5 minutes, and this is what's happened. I couldn't believe the situation that Matt had got us into at that point. But luckily, I wasn't on that boat, so it nearly knocks me off. So I had this ceramic grill as well, and that fell into the water. Rob saves it. God knows how that floated, but it did float. So Rob managed to save the grill, and I was happy because obviously I have this grill, which is so important. But it was really heavy, cast iron, you know, proper cast iron grill. It was really heavy. It must have weighed about 10 kilos. And I wasn't going light, you know. If I was going on this trip, it was a heavy job, you know. It's proper heavy work. So yeah, he saves it. They managed eventually to get into the flow and get out of that situation and get into our peg, which was absolutely mental. You know, couldn't believe they survived. I thought I was be looking for new team members. I thought, oh well, they've gone. I need to get a couple of decent team members, you know, to fill the gap.
Yeah.
Because that was, to be honest, Jay, that was all that was going through my mind at that point. I wasn't really bothered that they were stuck in that situation. I was more bothered about my team, my eyes.
Yeah.
So, you know, if they had drowned, it would have been a situation where I was just like the next day, I'd be asking for team members. It's, you know, but I did have the van keys, so I thought, well, if they go, I've still got the van keys. I can get back home. I was convincing myself I could drive on the wrong side of the road. I could do all these things, but you know, the best laid plans and all that, they managed to get out of it, which I don't know how, but they did. So yeah, we spent. So we got to the peg eventually. So after that, Matt's off for a glutton of punishment. As soon as he gets there, right, we're going to the shop, and I'm like, seriously, you just had a near-death experience and we want to go to the shop. So, right, we go to the shop, we get some beers and everything else. I trips over on the way back, lands on some rocks and grazed on my arm, and I'm like, oh wow, this is like not a good move at all. This isn't going to work out. So we're there on this peninsula. We sets up, saw a carp bowl, which I was quite excited about, right in close, good, nice comment. So we sets up, and we're there fishing for a little while, and the rain starts to come down, don't it? And Matt's like, "Ooh, you know, getting a bit edgy with this rain because we're on this peninsula." And it was quite funny. 5 minutes before all this occurred, well, say about 10, 15, 20 minutes before, Rob gets a beep on the alarm suddenly, like he's in my peg. So he's like, oh, you know, that's something. And then went beep, 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 just went one toner. Rob just legs it. He's like, oh, I'm going to get this fish. Matt decides, no, boat, boat, boat. So he's shouting boat. Rob's legging it down to his peg. Matt jumps in the boat, slips off the boat, falls into the water, 6 foot of water, head to toe in water. He manages to clamber onto the boat. Rob, meanwhile, is running, runs into a big, big tree log that sat on this peninsula because the flood has took it, and it's massive, and he almost breaks his leg, so he runs full pelt, bang, right into it. It's pitch black, can't see what he's doing. So he's hobbling along while Matt is soaking wet through with rowing this boat to get to his peg. Meanwhile, Matt's got there first, bearing in mind, Matt is there first, and he's shouting Rob. Don't know where Rob is. Rob's still hobbling along, trying to get to his rod. Eventually, he does get to his rod, they get in the boat, and land like a 70-pound carp. So we're like, oh, well, you know, at least he's had one, you know, puts it in the retainer, and we're like, we're going to take some pictures. And obviously, this rain is pelting down. So obviously, they do all this, they land the fish, they get it into a retainer. Matt goes back into his bivvy to start to get changed. And about 10 minutes after that, I'm like, bearing in mind, I'm literally 5 yards from Matt. Yeah. Matt texts me and he says, team meeting in my bivvy. And I'm like, Matt, why don't you just shout over to me? You know, I'm literally that close. Yeah. So he's like, well, team meeting. So obviously, I understand that Rob's obviously got the message as well. So we're all there. We're sat round in his bivvy talking about the rain. And how we were on this peninsula and basically was going to cause a bit of an issue if it flooded because they were forecasting flash floods. So we decided, just to be safe, we were going to come off. And it was pitch black, and literally we had a hard time getting there in the first place. But to do it in the pitch dark, we're walking around the sides of this peninsula, which was jutting out, and you could fall into 12 foot of water. It wasn't the one, but Bob was hobbling, so he couldn't do nothing. So I was there with a rope, pulling this boat along. Matt was pulling another boat along. Bob was behind me, hobbling along the gravel, pushing this boat. But eventually we get back to where we started. We did it safely this time. They didn't try any silly tactics or trying to row to the play to where we got in. But eventually we got there and did it all safely and everything. And when we got there, they decide, well, let's bivvy up underneath the bridge. So we can't do that because the ground is rock solid. So we're like, where can we get this bivvy in? So we found this green area eventually, which was a bit past the bridge, where we could actually put our bivvies there. And we got it all set up. We got all the bivvies. They start making it. Well, Matt and Bob start making risotto, and I see a light in the distance. And I'm saying to them, I'm like, who's that? Oh, I don't know, do I? So I've always, it's coming down here. So we're waiting. I goes, I think it's the police. So the police pulls up alongside us. They start telling us it's forbidden to do what we're doing, i.e. camping out. And they tell us to come off immediately. So we're like, well, what do we do? We're like, thinking about, and then they were checking all our licenses. The woman there was checking all the licenses. Really, Rob and Matt was just eyeing her up. But I was a bit more concerned about the actual fine that we could potentially get. But yeah, we have to come off. We have to come off immediately. Have we got any drugs in the van? No, we've got no drugs in the van. It's like, well, we're going to tell him even if we've got drugs in the van. But so that basically it started from there. So we got they left eventually, told us that we got to leave, and we're in that position. We're like, oh, what do we do? And I thought, well, if they come back, Matt was saying, if they come back, they're doing us a favour, aren't they? Really, it's piss wet through. We're drenched. If they put us in the cells, doing us a favour, keep us there for the night. At least it's dry, So we decide, fuck it, we're gonna stay there. We're gonna stay there. So he gets in the bivvy, he sleeps, and then there's a knock at my bivvy, isn't there? And I'm like, what the hell is going on here? This is like a comedy of errors. There's a boat, and he's talking all gibberish, and I'm like, he's absolutely pissed. He's pissed, totally pissed. Two of them, and I'm like, I don't understand what the guy's saying. So I get Matt out, and I'm like, Matt. So he comes out, and he's there talking to Google Earth and this translate thing. So he starts talking, and he's going on about, oh, do we need any help? And I'm like, well, no. Other than the fact that we need to be dry, we need to be sleeping. We haven't slept for like 38 hours at this point. It's pitch black, and we're trying to get some sleep, and there's a knock at the door, knock at a bivvy door. So anyway, he's talking, and eventually he leaves us alone. We go back to sleep, and everything's fine until the morning, when this was an absolute disaster. 24 hours until the morning. So the morning comes, and they decide, Bob and Matt decide to go to the shop to get like some pan of chocolate, whatever they call it, and some breakfast. So I'm left there I'm left there on my own with the bivvy, my own bivvy. So I'm like, God, I don't. It's a bit dodgy, this. Bit dodgy, Some wood's behind me, isn't there? So I'm like, at least I can go for a crap, Yeah. So I goes behind the bivvy, starts having this crap. And I'm like, it's all great, but I'm a bit constipated. So it's not a good situation. So I'm there for about 5 minutes, and then next thing I know, the police just like pulls up right next to me, and I'm like, oh my god, what do I do? What do I do? And I'm like, I'll just pretend that I'm looking for something, thinking that would be the best way of getting away with the situation. So I'm there looking on the floor, like, pulls my trousers up, and I'm like, looking on the floor, and he's like, and then I sort of walk to him, and he's like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I've lost something. And he's like, right, you're not allowed to stay here, it's forbidden, you're not allowed to camp here. And I'm like, oh, when my friends come back, we're going. He goes, you can't camp. I was like, well, look, when they come back, we're going to go. We're honestly going to go. So he left. They left eventually, turned around, left. Well, I thought they left, because at the bottom, they turns back around again. And I'm like, what are they doing? And then another van turns up, another police wagon turns up, and I'm like, what the heck? What is going on? And these people get out, these policemen get out, and they're dressed in like lycra. And I'm like, what the heck is going on? It's like some bondage kind of thing going on here. So they're dressed in lycra, and they get all these like these oxygen things on, and I'm like, this isn't good. There's something going on. So meanwhile, I'm on the phone to them. I'm like, get back quick. There's people, policemen in lycra. They look as though they're going to go diving for something, So there's about 12 of them. And they're like, comes up to us. Well, they come up to me while I was still there, and they're saying, what you doing? What you need to go now. And I'm like, well, I've got to wait for fence to return. First, I can't. I need the van. You know, the van needs to come, and I need to put my gear in and everything else. So you can't just do these things by half. You have to properly make sure that everything's away. So that eventually Matt and Rob turn up again, and then they're like, "What's going on? What's going on?" I go, "I think there's some kind of dead body down there or something. You know, they're doing something." But cut a long story short, they were doing some. It was a bomb disposal. So basically, they told us to wait where we were, not to go anymore, but to wait where we were because this bomb was going to go off. So I was there expecting a loud bomb, you know, but it was just a little bang, and that was it. So we're like, this is crazy. Eventually, they left. And we were like, well, what do we do then? Shall we go back to the island? Because we were worried about the flooding, and it never flooded. It never did flood. And so we said, right, well, we'll pre-bait and we'll come back in a few days. So we went off to another river after that. But that's really how, you know, how it started, really, with that experience of the first 24 hours being an absolute mental experience, to the rest of the week being absolutely brilliant. So we got to the other river. We're catching straight away, more or less. It's still raining on and off, and the water was coming up a little bit, but we're catching. So that night we're catching. We put a lot of bait out. Matt went mad with the maze. We're catching lots of 20s. And Rob had a decent one as well, as I can remember. But that was really good experience. For those 3 days, we had a lot of fish, a lot of 20s. I think my best one there was 24, 25. But yeah, we did have a lot of fish, and then we decided the last 2 days to have the last 2 days back at the other river. So we decided that we were going to do everything safely, everything properly, and we're going to we're going to get there and hopefully have a good couple of days. So when we got there, we did everything right, and it didn't take us that long really. I think we learned from the past experience of messing it all up. Well, Matt certainly did. So we got there, we got onto this peninsula, we set up and everything was fine. And eventually I saw this carp top as well. It was like, again, it was one of those things where you just sort of see it and you think, I'm on that fish. And so it started off with, we got there sort of quite late in the evening, I think. Around about, I don't know, maybe about 4 o'clock. It was just starting to get dark, as I remember. And Bob started off catching. He had a couple of 30s, and I think Matt had a smaller one around about 26. But when I woke up in the morning, I mean, I had nothing through the night. I found that I had tangled on 2 of my rods or something, and on the other rod, the bait had gone. So I was just like, well, I obviously wasn't fishing all night, you know, and I wasted one night. Rob then, I think he had. I learned in the morning he had a couple of 30s, so we took some pictures, and Matt took some pictures and video, and we got good shots of it. And then it was that during that day I decided, well, I need to go back to the van at some point today because I need to charge up my phone and everything else. And I think it was that day. Maybe it was the day after. I think we did do 3. I think we did 3 nights there. I think we did. But anyway, that second day, I managed to get my rigs in, sort them all out, put the rods back out, and everything was fishing for me, hunky dory, you know. And I can't remember if I had hooked 2 fish that day. I don't think I did. I think I had to wait till the evening. I was putting quite a lot of bait out. I was doing it a bit differently to what they were doing. They were going out in the boat, putting all the bait around the boat, around the spot, like 80, 100 yards. Whereas I was just like, no, I want to be able to cast. So I decided, because I didn't have a boat with me, I decided that I would just catapult at casting range. and put quite a lot of redemption out, loads of 24 millers, got them all out there. And, you know, it started that evening, and I got a couple of beeps, and I always knew when I'd get that first beep, I'd get my wellies on that, because I just knew it was going to go. And it was always the same. It was always the same. Every fish I caught, I can't remember exactly how it all panned out, but I remember that it was always that first beep to be wary of, and then you get your boots on, and by the time you got your boots on, it is running, you know. So I landed a couple of, I think it was a couple of small ones. I lost a few as well, but that was more in the morning. But anyway, that particular night, I had this. I had one early, and I think it was a common. And then later on, it was around about 10 o'clock, and Matt had been giving me grief, because I remember now, Matt had been giving me grief about losing fish during the day, and I think I did lose a couple and maybe landed one. And he was saying, "Oh, your hook link's too long," and all this business. So when I went to the van, little did I know, they had started playing about with my rigs and shortening my rigs and hook links. Because they didn't think I was fishing right. The only one left was the one I got the big one on, and that was mine. That was mine. I had a long link on that, and that was mine. Yes, I did lose a couple of fish. Now I do agree. I wasn't on the right method, I don't think, but I definitely caught that fish on my rig that was still left in the water. And yeah, it was literally that night, that beep, and I was like, "My wellies on," got my wellies on. As soon as I got my wellies on, it's just beep, 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 just going, just completely going, and complete one toe. Now I'm like outside, lifts into this fish, and I'm like, "Oh my God, that is heavy. If that's not a carp, that is a heavy. You know, that is a proper carp." So I'm playing it, and I'm not even shouting Rob and Matt, because I just think they're just going to take the piss. You know, they'll make me lose that fish. If they're here, I'll lose that fish. So I decided I was just going to play it by myself, and I was there. I'd the rod between my legs, and I've never actually ever been in a position where I would grab the rod with both hands, you know, and I would heave. And it got to that point where, hang on a minute, I feel as though I've actually caught something like really substantial that I need to use two hands and get it between my legs and heave, you know. But that's literally what I was doing, because Matt had said, "Next fish you catch, just bully it." He says, "Because there's too many snags, you're going to lose it." And I did lose a good one earlier on, and I thought, I can't be in that position again, so I'm just going to do what I have to do, bully it, and if it happens and it works out, brilliant. If it don't, then I'm going to blame him, you know. So yeah, I'd basically bullied it all the way in, and it got in the edge, and it was fighting quite. You know, I had the clutch on really tight at that point. It was taking a little bit of line, but I wasn't prepared to sort of let it go, and I was literally making 2 turns on the handle every time. I could only lift it to a certain point, and then I would have to reel down and sort of put some compression again, you know, into the rod again. But yeah, we got to that point, and I got it in. I saw it on the surface, and I was like, "That is massive. That is massive." Gets the net into it, and then I'm shouting him. I'm like, "Matt, Matt!" He comes over, and he's looking. He's like, "Oh my God, that's massive. That's massive." We weighs it, and it was 53 pound 10. Couldn't believe it. It was just the biggest ever carp ever. It was just crazy experience, but one that's led me on to more trying to chase. I'm probably never going to beat that fish, but you know, just chase the wild adventures more and do more if I can. And really, we've done another 2 since then, I think, and they've all been experiences. And I know you were looking forward to this one we were planning latterly, but yeah, it's you know, it's a really good experience. It's not an experience that you're likely to ever repeat on a commercial. It's more like you experience a lot more, and you've got a story to tell, like I've just shown.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's what the allure is to that kind of fishing. I think really, it certainly inspired me to get involved with it, and I like to do it.
Enjoy it.
Yeah, yeah, I can't wait for it.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry again.
When we can eventually go, Jay. Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah, hopefully it will happen this year. Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Well, I've got all the gear ready anyway. It's just waiting.
Well, that's what you need, Jay. You need the gear.
Yes. Anyway, I guess coming towards the end of it a little bit now. But what are your kind of aspirations, your achievements that you want to reach really with the company, and where you want it to go for 3FT and the launch of Next Gen as well, I guess?
Yeah. I mean, really, Next Gen is very well. It's in the infancy stage. It's only really just getting started, and obviously Matt is going to be a large part of that moving forward. It's not something I really have got the time to get into myself and concentrate on. I need to concentrate on 3FT, which is where what I understand. Carp side, I really don't understand the market, so Matt really does help on that particular point. But really, in regards to 3FT, I in 3 or 4 years, I would like it to be right up there with the best barbel companies there is in terms of pay. It takes a lot of hard work, and the emphasis is really on the importance of having a good team around you, working well together, and really just having a good business model that you can implement, and able to move forward. I think that's important. We've looked at over the last 5 years, we've come a long way. In the next 5 years, I would like to go even further and be one of the, if not the best barbel bait company there is, which we've got to do, and eventually we've got to look at all the problems that occur as well. I mean, you look at the rivers nowadays, and a lot of them have been ottered. So you get to that point where you think, well, there's less barbel anglers. They're not on the Great Ouse, for example. That used to be an absolute thriving river, is now a shadow of its former self. It's not, you've got to think about all these aspects of whether you can take 3FT abroad. You can get barbel anglers from Germany, Holland, and people like that, because you can't just settle on a UK-wide company when you see the stocks dwindling as they are, and just barbel not becoming. Well, you've got the likes of the Seven, and you've got the likes of the. I know you catch a lot of fish on the Seven, Jay, and obviously the Trent and the Thames, and then you start looking for other backup places, and they're not as prevalent. They're not as. I mean, why? It probably isn't as good as it was, even. And you think, well, why is that? And it's otters predation and everything like that, and you start coming to the conclusion, really, that eventually you're going to have to look out with the UK and start looking more abroad to get your customers. And I think that's how we are going to approach 3FT in
basically expanding as much as possible. Further afield, really, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so, and it's important that we look at that, and we're able to move forward with that particular market, because I don't believe that there's enough here in the UK to keep us to make us bigger than what we are. It is going to take a long time. Obviously, we are going to look at, and I've noticed over the years, things have got better each year. Apart from that, I think it was 2017 when it was really, really hot for the old summer, and I think stock fishing for the lack of oxygen. And I think that particular point, that is when I'm busy, and it wasn't busy, so I didn't do as well. But year on year, we have made baby steps, and we've got to a point where we're we're quite happy, but we need to move forward a little bit more over the next few years and look at maybe 3FT abroad, 3FT in Europe, and really appeal to those anglers as well. It's not just about the UK. These rivers used to be thriving, you know, used to have a lot. The Wensum, like I spoke about earlier, used to be a thriving river. It's not anymore. And there's too many. There's too many rivers that are just going to rack and ruin purely because of predation.
Yeah, it's a real worry. I know it is for everybody. And there are a lot of reasons why the populations have been dwindling on the rivers. It is a worry, and I think there are quite a few programs in place now where they're introducing smaller fish into the rivers. Which is great, but unfortunately, like if you've got the goose sander and they hammer them with the small. So,
and this is the problem. You got to. I think you've just got to think about long term and what is the goal long term. And I think with any business, to have a business model of what they look to in the future and the next 4 to 5 years. And I can see the next 4 to 5 years being very difficult in the UK. I really honestly do. And I'm not just saying that. I think the rivers like the Trent, Severn, and the Thames will survive, but you've also got these Thames fish that are huge, 19-pound barbel, that when they die, you then look at the backup fish that there is, and then you don't see many 16s or 17s coming out of the Thames, and you think, well, you do sort of worry that after the 19s, that's it. You know, that it'll probably end up beating a record at £20 something, and then there won't be anything backing it up, and it's concerning.
I think it also is a little bit of a natural cycle of the river as well. You've seen it on other rivers as well, that you get like a spate of big fish for a long period of time, and then those disappear, and then you get the smaller fish start coming through again.
Like I say, for us as a company, we have to plan ahead, and I think you know, I've got personal goals that I'd like to meet. I'd like to meet my own personal goals and maybe catch an 18-pound barbel and catch a 30-pound carp from a river. I would love to do that in the UK, but the less important. I mean, I don't have as much time as I used to. My focus now is purely on the company, 3FT, and get people catching fish. That's where my role is. That's where my thinking is. Fishing for me now is not what it used to be. It's not a pastime for me anymore. Whenever I go, it's about the business. It's about me trying to catch something for 3FT. It's not about me trying to catch a fish for myself. Although I'd be happy, but less happy than what I was years ago, where I was pleasure fishing. You know, pleasure fishing, it means so much more than when you're actually running a company and you're trying to catch fish to order. It's one of those where the enjoyment is taken out of it a little bit. But I get more enjoyment now from the guiding days, and I think that's where my enjoyment comes from. I get a lot of satisfaction at seeing people catch big barbel, and you know, if I put them on those fish and I've taught them how to do it, or I've shown them how to do it, then and made up, and they can't thank me enough. That's what gives me personal satisfaction. I think that's why I did it as well. I think that's why I went into guiding.
Yeah, that's good, and we all look forward to the future of 3FT and the launch next year. And I guess we'll probably read again. Yeah. Well, the last question before we go, because I think we've done quite well on time. Actually, I wasn't expecting us to have been talking for this long.
I didn't either. No.
Been over an hour now, so that's good. It's just who inspires you, really, in your fishing and anything else, really.
Well, I think for me, I mean, I haven't got any people that I'd really look up to nowadays. I think the people that I did look up to have now gone. Like John Wilson was an absolute legend. I watched all his boat fishing programs. I even watched the one where he did it really close to where my mum and dad had that cycle caravan. in Taverham, and he did. I don't know if you remember. He did a shoot there. I think it was like for Chubb,
Yeah.
and that was very close to where we were at that point. But John Wilson, absolute legend. He inspired me no end to go out and enjoy what I do, enjoy everything about fishing really. And I mean that's what he did. I mean that for me, there's a lot of people that say, you know, he wasn't a nice man, but I don't know him to that degree. I just go on what I saw at that point, and he gave me a lot of enthusiasm to do what I loved. And I think that's, I think John Wilson.
Yeah.
I mean, nowadays you're looking at the likes of Rod Hutchinson and Tim Richardson, and I learn a lot of Tim, especially in regard to bait making. But, you know, in terms of fishing, actual fishing, John Wilson.
Yeah, I think that's a great answer, a great person to have inspired you, and he certainly inspired a whole generation, really, of people to go fishing. Me myself, like you, watched all of his videos, and he was just infectious, wasn't he?
Absolutely, yeah. And that's why he was a man, you know, who's just so inspiring. He did a lot for angling as well. You know, he fought against darters as well. I remember he did a lot of things like that. So he fought against predation, and he moved to Thailand, and obviously he was quite happy there. But he didn't like the way the UK fishing was going, and I can understand why, really, to be honest.
Yeah. Certainly is inspiration for a lot of people, and sorely missed, but an absolute legend, and still enjoy his programs today. Yeah,
exactly. So, like I say, you know, if it wasn't for him, I don't think I would ever have got into fishing at all. Okay, my brother, you know, I used to go with my brother, but my brother really was inspired by him, and he used to go fishing because he was into metal detecting as well, but he loved fishing, and he was into fishing because John Wilson would show these programs. It used to be on Channel 4, so he used to watch them all the time. And I love Terry Earn. I'm very inspired by Terry Earn and what he does. I've read his books. He's a legend of a man. He talks so well. He's got a really good story to tell on most of his catches. So I'm, you know, in the carp side of things, definitely Terry Earn. For the more all round barbel type things, John Wilson, although he didn't really fish for barbel a huge amount, he wasn't a one species man, but he did fish for barbel. But yeah, I think that's what I'd have to go with.
Brilliant, great. Well, I think that went quite well, really, don't you?
I think it did, yeah.
Well,
hopefully people enjoyed it, and hopefully they can keep on tuning into your Rodcast. And you're going to get a few more people on board.
Definitely. It'd be great to have any feedback from you guys that are listening in. If there's anything you particularly want to hear anybody talk about, we're going to have kind of a selection of anglers doing this over the coming months.
Maybe get a couple more guys from the team to do it. I know Joe Savage has got a story to tell. He's always got a story to tell. So and he talks a lot, so he would be a prime choice.
Yeah. All right. Great. Well,
who knows?
Yeah, I might just shut my eyes for a little while Joe's talking. He can just crack on and.
Joe's going to see this.
Yeah. I think we'll leave it there, and hope everybody's enjoyed it, and we'll look forward to the next one.
Yeah, excellent. Cheers, Jay.
Take care. All the best. Stay safe.
And you. Bye-bye.
Bye.